Well, greetings, everyone. How's everybody doing today? We're so happy to be here today. My name is Leslie Montgomery, and you are tuned into LKM Kingdom Living, Leslie's Lessons Learned. And we are here today again with they're not their host as well, Alicia and, or I should say, Mike and Alicia Johnson. And we're just so grateful that they're here today. Mike was with us last week, and it felt kind of funny, even though it was his story of him telling it without Alicia being here. So Alicia is here today with us. And as I was thinking during the week, I said, now we told the beginning and the end, but we didn't tell the process. A lot of times people think that when you say healing, and yes, some people are healed automatically, some people are healed through a process. So I asked Mike and Alicia if they would come on and talk about that aspect of it, and as well as what it looked like for Alicia. So today we'll still be talking about multiple myeloma. And here we're going to get started. So that end takes a little bit too long, but we're going to work on that. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to take my mirror. I'm not going to be long, but we're going to talk today because, when you look in the mirror, and one thing I can say is that I've been graced with the natural beauty of the Lord. Yes, I have makeup on, and yes, it look a certain way with the makeup, but that behind the makeup is what makes the difference. What kind of heart I have, what kind of disposition I carry. But I want to speak to those that do look in the mirror and say, is life worth living? I want to speak to those that look in the mirror and say, it's no use. I want you to understand that life is worth living. I want you to understand that it is worth it. Life is worth it. You would not have been created and brought here if it was not for a purpose. And I want to say greetings to everyone that has joined us. I want to thank you for being here. And, on Leslie's Lessons Learned, we talk about different topics. And as I've said before, we're not professionals, but we speak from experience. And from us speaking from experience, we just tell you what we've been through and how we came through it. We talk about faith. We talk about strengthening your belief in Yeshua. We talk about all the things that most people don't think about. Healing. Uh, Healing is a big part of our conversation these days because so many people are in the need of healing. So many people are in the need of understanding that healing works differently. We've been taught all the time that healing is one, two, three. You ask for it, you got it. But there's a process. A lot of people can do. Some come through like that? Yes, they do, but not all people do. So we wanted to talk about that today. We talk about relationships, and Alicia and Mike has been a part of that conversation from the beginning about relationships and purpose and destiny and just our personal growth and with the word. So today we're going to continue our conversation after we say what we say. And I'm going to ask Minister Wanda, but she has asked me to call her Wanda. I'm going to work on that. How are you doing, Wanda?
I am doing wonderful. Good morning to everyone. Maybe good afternoon or even evening in some parts of the world. My name is Wanda Floyd, and what Miss Leslie said is important because for someone, they may not feel like life is worth living. Some feel like they're tired of going through what they're going through and they are just ready to give up. Some might just be like, take me home now. But I want you to know that there is something that we say here that is going to be very important to your journey. And that is that a life without me is like a world without color. Now, I want you to say it with me. A life
Life
without me
without me
is like a
is
world
mm,
without
without
color. Now, just in case you sitting right there are having a hard time saying that because you don't believe it and you are tired and you are ready to give up, I want you to know this morning that a life without you is like a world without color. And what's so unique about this is that Yahweh created us, and each of us have our own unique color that we add to the world's beauty. And if you were not here, a beautiful part of that picture would be missing. It's like a picture when you paint the numbers, and your number would be missing. And so the picture would be incomplete. So we want you to know this morning that we need you here, and you are important because you have a purpose and a destiny. Miss Leslie?
Oh, she said that so wonderfully. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the other thing is that I like to say is that there was a video, and on in the video, the man was blind, and he was sitting on the ground, and he had a sign. He says, "Can you help me? I'm blind." Young lady walks by, comes back with a pen, and she writes on the other side, and it is said, "It's a beautiful day, and I can't see it." How important it is that we understand that beauty is in, can I say, in the eyes of the beholder? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the right term. But sometimes we go through things, and because we're stuck right there, we can't see the beauty in our lives. We can't see the beauty in the day. And I want you to know that no matter what you're going through, it's a choice to see beauty. And I encourage you to begin to see the beauty in your day, the beauty in your life. Yes, we make mistakes, honey. I made a lot of, still making them, and we make a lot of mistakes, but that does not say that I have to go to bed and say, "Oh my God, I'm just the most terrible person." One thing I've learned from Alicia, and Alicia said, "Yeah, I made a mistake." Okay, move on. And that's how we have to look at it. That even though we make mistakes, that is not the end of the world, that we can still make it. So, to the Johnsons, I want to say thank you so much for being here. And take a moment and introduce yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Sure.
No, you go ahead.
So I'm Mike Cullen Johnson, or Michael Cullen Johnson, and I was on last week, so um, I don't know what else I need to share, but
Everybody wasn't on last week,
that's true.
Mike.
That's true. That's true. So my name is Michael Cullen Johnson. I'm a cinematographer, videographer, cyclist, and cancer survivor who has dedicated the rest of his life to um, helping people or making people be aware of cancer and all of the ins and outs and ups and downs of cancer and a cancer diagnosis. Also, dedicating to fundraising and raising, again, awareness and support for all things cancer. I'm a multiple myeloma um, patient, or I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2022. And I've just dedicated myself to first raising funds for that, but also I'm now committed to just doing it for all cancers. Because if you look at the numbers, cancer is really wreaking havoc on families and individuals here in the United States and throughout the world. And I really don't think that, especially, and we were talking about it last night before I was diagnosed, I really didn't pay attention to the numbers, because I'm a part of that number now. Looking at it is very, very concerning. There's a lot of people being diagnosed. There are a lot of people that are living with it, and there are a lot of people dying. So I don't know how much longer I have to live. Of course, I know I won't live forever, but I have dedicated the rest of my life to that cause. So
Good morning. I'm Alicia Johnson, the wife of one, the mother of two, and the creator of the 1212 community. I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be here to whatever you need from me, that's what I'm here for. But the 1212 community is a community dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to recalibrate their lives, to live a balanced life, 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. And we offer daily support Monday through Friday, and we start our day every day, not just through lip service, but in spirit and truth, by giving God our first fruit so that we can receive the daily instruction, the daily manna that we need. So that is who I am.
Why, thank you. You see Tiffany's put in, she trying to tell you how to say it.
Yeah, Team Johnson.
Oh, Team Joe, we messed
I'm
that
Michael.
up. No, Mike don't do it right. I tried it. I've tried it. He won't act right.
So again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment and hit the like sign, share, and subscribe. We're going to get started with our conversation. I want to thank those from the UK, those from London, and those from the US that is with us today. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to have fun and a good conversation. And as we get started, last week, Mike, you were speaking of how you found out about your diagnosis and how you felt. You know, you wanted to lay down, you didn't want to, do anything for 3 days, and then all of a sudden you got up and say, "No, we're going to live this differently." So I want to kind of take it from there, but I want Alicia to take a moment and tell her side how she felt when all this came about and took place.
Okay, I think that initially God kind of prepares you for scenarios and situations that you enter into, but oftentimes we don't realize that we're being prepared. And initially, when we were, I don't know how why was I in the car with you? Did you come home and pick me up or something? We were in the car. We were in the car, and I remember we were sitting up at the Chipotle in the parking lot. Maybe we were going to get Chipotle. I don't know. But he said the doctor said that it was after you had gotten your blood work, or it was around the time, because initially it was just an initial doctor's appointment. And so I was with him the evening after he met with the doctor, and they wanted to run additional tests to rule out, certain things. And so he was saying the doctor wanted to rule out X, Y, and Z. And so that was like kind of the beginning of the process, knowing that something was not right, but not knowing what it was. And I think that initial conversation that we had, when he said hematologist, oncologist, I was like, that ain't good. Like, I ain't never, that one ain't never been in my playbook. I've been to a gynecologist. I've been to, just regular doctors. I'm like, no, that's a specialist. Like, that's big time. And so I was like, whatever it is, it's not regular. And so I kind of knew that, but to the extent I had no idea. And initially I was perplexed in the sense that, not knowing exactly what it was, but also grateful that I knew that the reason that he had that appointment was because God gave us a heads up back in June. And so that kind of settled me to know that this hasn't come. I've done enough spiritual work to understand spiritual warfare to the extent that spiritual warfare comes like out of the blue. Like, it just comes and it knocks you off the ground. But it doesn't come to, if you are in alignment with God, it's not going to have the impact that it could have had. And so for that settled my spirit to know that whatever comes, I didn't know what it was going to be, but whatever it is, God gave us a heads up. So that calmed me to know that we probably gonna have to go through some stuff, but we're not going through it alone. So that was my initial perspective, is that nobody, you can't circumvent trouble. Jesus teaches us trouble will come. So I've never been one to try to circumvent or, dodge the whatever. Just bring it. The quicker you face it, the quicker you can get through it. So it was like, whatever it is, we're well equipped to handle it. But I didn't know what it was. So that was my initial perspective, if I explained it well. I don't wake up till noon, so just bear with me.
Okay.
I am not an early morning person. I know that's the craziest thing, but no, I am not.
Yeah. Interrupting your Sunday. Sorry about that.
Oh, no interruption. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. So, Mike, I remember you had to go through when you couldn't be around anybody. It was like after it was done, you had your transfusion, you had to stay in the hospital for a while, and then you came home, but you really still couldn't be around people. What was that? Tell us about that part.
So you're speaking after all of the treatments and then having the stem cell.
Yes.
Um,
And you was in isolation.
it was a very awakening time. Um, it was almost as though I could see light at the end of the tunnel, but at the same time, I was very weak. I laid on the couch a lot, because if you know anything about a stem cell transplant, they pretty much take your immune system down to zero. And, bringing it back up is a process, and it's definitely not an overnight thing. So I laid around a lot. I looked at TV. I couldn't really lift anything. I couldn't really do anything strenuous. It was almost as though, of course, none of us remember being born, but it was like being born again. When you bring a new baby home,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it was. When you bring a new baby home, they just sleep and they eat and they do all of those things. I did a lot of praying and meditating, reading, and stuff like that as well. But it was really like an awakening, because I had been through like this very difficult period that I had never experienced before. And it was as though like all of that had kind of been lifted. And I was actually in the process of growing into who I was, or who I was to be today. It was a rebirth in many ways, mentally and spiritually. But yeah, I remember we had went out. I think that was after the transplant. We had went out somewhere, and I got like crazy dizzy, because even if I stood up for a long time, I would, because I was really anemic, and we were out somewhere, and I started walking, and it just felt like everything was about to collapse on me. And I remember walking to this wall and just putting my hand up against the wall to, keep myself up. And I had to close my eyes and really just kind of center myself. But I was extremely weak. And it took a while I don't think I started to really feel well until I think it was around that Christmas holiday, somewhere in December, where I started to feel almost like myself again. But yeah.
When I'm thinking about it, it seemed like it was a long process. And to y'all, it probably was. But it was like you found out about it. After you found out about it, you started testing. After you started testing, then the process for the stem cells started. Then because of you taking care of yourself, the amount of time you were supposed to be isolated, if I'm remembering correctly, was shorter than it was supposed to be.
In the hospital, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in there, like they said, up to like 30 days. And he came home probably about day 12, or between 12 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, he was there like half the time. But I do want to go back to that time in the hospital. And this is not just for us, this is for anyone who's going through trials or, whatever. I don't care what the trials are. Always look for the signs. Always look for the signs that heaven is present, and pay attention to everything that crosses your path. And when he was in the was it the hyperbaric chamber?
Isolation.
The isolation. It was a it was like it was a closed unit. And so, it was really fascinating to science is very fascinating. I mean, a lot of times we're not so spiritual that we don't understand that we're here on earth, and we're not so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good, and we're not so earthly minded that we're no heavenly good. And so being balanced is very important. And so, I'll meditate and get the surgery too. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, whatever God wants us to do, I will do it. There are people who train and who this is their calling, this is their assignment, this is their work. How else can they practice their work if they don't have people to help? And so that was one of the things that I was most grateful about, is that Mike crossed paths with people that were passionate about their work. And the first doctor that he encountered, which was the one that initiated the blood work and sent him to the hematologist. Mike's cousin is a doctor, so we ain't that smart over here. We just I use Dr. Google in a minute. I'm like, we need to send this to some really smart people. So we sent it to a few people that were doctors, and they looked at it and they were like, oh, okay, like that. Whoever your doctor is, be grateful, because this condition mimics a lot of other conditions that could have prolonged the diagnosis, which could have reduced his lifespan. And so that we were grateful for that. And so God placed the right doctors, placed us along the path of the right doctors. But I was bringing that up to say that when we were in the hospital, when he was preparing for the stem cell transplant, the extraction went very well. It went so well that he collected, I can't.
Hold on, so you said extraction?
The stem cell, when they
collection,
extraction, when they were getting it out of your system.
Yeah, so before I got the stem cell transplant, I want to say a week and a half before, I had to go in first, and we'll go back. I had to get this another port installed. I have one, and I still have it, but I had to get another one installed for them to collect the stem cells. And we had to go into the hospital, and we were scheduled to be there all day, where they actually go through the process of pulling all of your blood out and circulating it back into you. But at the same time, they're pulling it out. They're pulling stem cells out and putting them into this separate container, which is a process. And it's a very weird feeling. It's almost like your body is like it's this numbing feeling. It's not painful or anything, but we had to go through that first. I just wanted to say that because you had said extraction, and I just wanted to explain what that process was.
And so with that, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because when they extracted the stem cells, they put them in, they took us on a tour of the wing and showed us how they store the stem cells and all of that. And I was interested, but not interested. I was like, look, I just want to get through this process, and they're like, but they were so excited about their work. And I was like, okay, God was like, lean into it. So and then this is where, and this, the reason I bring this up is that a lot of people miss their opportunities to be a bigger part of the plan because we dismiss what we don't understand. And so I had to slow down enough to step into their world. I had to slow down enough to see what God had created them to do. And these nurses and doctors were so attentive, and they were so dedicated, and they were I was like, wow, this is a whole nother world. So I say all of that to say is that within all of that, there's so many signs interwoven in the process. And so we were in the room preparing, well, Mike was in the room preparing, they were preparing him for the stem cell transplant. And the nurses came in, and one of the nurses kept saying, when the stem cells come, I need you to see it. I need you to see it. This is a fascinating process. I was like, okay, I just need y'all to take them things and put them back in here so we can get back to our life. But that's all I wanted. I wanted him to hurry up and heal. That's all I wanted. I just wanted y'all to do and God was like, the whole process is the healing part. You're not going to go from 0 to 60. You've got to enjoy and understand every, minute increase in, acceleration, if you will. And the nurse came, and when everything is timed, and this is what you have to understand. A lot of times in the world, we miss so many scenarios because we want to rush through the process. I want to hurry up and get this done. I want to hurry up and get my business off the ground. I want to hurry up and get my house. I want to hurry up and have children. And through that hurry, we miss the most important parts.
Can I say this real quick? Because you know how we pray a speedy recovery when we praying for people. And one day Yahweh said to me, don't say that. Say it, in my time, and may you have the recovery. Stop rushing me to do what I'm trying to do. So I just wanted to add that in because that was a deep prayer, speedy recovery. And that's not what he's saying all the time. There's still work that has to be done through the process. And we're talking about skip all the work and just heal.
Right. And it's all part of the process. All part of the process. And this is where a lot of people miss it because we want to compartmentalize everything. We want to compartmentalize. We have marriage problems. We want to compartmentalize. We have financial problems. We want to compartmentalize. But God began to work with me and help me to understand, do you realize that was all part of the healing process? All of that was part of the healing process. It wasn't just the physical healing we were looking for. That healing would not have taken place had we not done the prior healing that was required. And this is what a lot of people miss, understanding that healing is not just physical, it's spiritual, mental, and physical. And so while we were there, and the day of the stem cell transplant, when they ordered it, and it had to come at a certain time because it was, the stem cells were frozen and they had to be thawed out at a certain temperature, not too fast, not too slow. So they had this was down to a science because the stem cells had to be, I guess, small enough to re-enter into the system, and they had to be viable enough to do what they needed to do. So that in and of itself was fascinating. But the reason that God had them to keep pulling me to come out to see it, I was just like, wow. It was like almost, and the nurse said it. She's like, it's like a baptism. It's like a baptismal pool. It's like the little pool that they had the water in to warm up the solution, to warm up the stem cells. And the stem cells are in a container. And there were 2 nurses or 2 techs or whatever their titles were. And they dunked it 3 times. They dunked it 3 times. And then they took it, and I was just like, what is happening? So that was the part that heaven needed me to see. And a lot of times in our arrogance and our stubbornness, we miss so many opportunities to see the deeper parts of the work. And that in and of itself helped me to understand even more how people miss so many opportunities because it's not just spiritual healing. God is in science. God is in the math. God is
handiwork. It's his handiwork.
Yes. And so for us to dismiss and say, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that, is arrogant, because if heaven has sent it to you, heaven is not doing anything to destroy you. We do more damage to ourselves than anyone else ever could. And so this is the one thing that I want people to understand is that God is in it all. And a lot of times people miss it because that was in the beginning, it was definitely Mike's decision. And one of the decisions to make was to go the holistic route or to go, the medical route. And I'm like, God's everywhere. So you make your decision and do what you need to do, and I would have to honor that. But there isn't any decision that we can make that is independent of God. God will work with you in any direction that you go in because heaven is an ever-present help. And for anybody who says different, they misunderstand God. They misunderstand the character of heaven.
You know, what's so amazing about this is that we often say, God, let me see your glory. I really want to see you in this. And he literally took you and showed you, allowed you to see his handiwork.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch me work.
Right.
And the whole process, even them being able to do what they do, honestly, is by the work of Yahweh, our Father, right? But to take you, and because you like, yeah, I don't want to be bothered with that. I just do what y'all do, and I want it done because I want him healed. I
Right. Give
want
me
him
my
well.
husband back.
Right. Give him back. Just do what y'all do. That ain't necessary for me. Right. And he's like, no, I want you to see how I'm all in this. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to see how I work. And man, you just said that. That blew me away. Even the process of taking your blood out, filtering it back in, but even while it's coming out, it's removing the stem cells. The stem cells are going somewhere else so they can be, if I could say, rejuvenated, restored, um, fixed all over again, and then placed back into this body. The whole thing screams El Shaddai, God Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, I had no idea what stem cells, none of this stuff was before all of this happened, but we learned a lot. And, of course, now we know stem cells are like, it's a major part of like everything that works in our body. Um, and I'd also want to say, Alicia was saying something that just reminded me that there's always, whether you say it's God, whether you say it's angel, there's always someone there in your corner. And you were talking about the doctor, my general physician. She was truly an angel. Now that we look back at it,
She gone. We can't even
she's
find
gone.
her.
And it's
We
almost
can't
like
even find her.
after all of this happened, everything was said and done. I had an appointment to go in. I found out that she was leaving. It's like, what?
And I even asked her, and this because I had an appointment, and this is how you have to pay attention and put your finger on the pulse of how heaven is working with you. That entire team that Mike had from the start of his process until, shortly after the stem cell transplant, that entire team has been dismantled. And they're all in different locations. So it's not like it was, they were in one location. It's like they came in, they did their part, they completed the assignment, and they bowed out. The doctor, this is how fascinating this was for me. I know she was there. I know she existed. And my last appointment with her, I literally thanked her for her attention to detail, for her, just being so thorough. And I've never done that with a doctor before. And she said, "You're very welcome, Ms. Johnson." And she said, "I want to let you know that your next appointment will be with a new doctor." I was like, "Well, where you going?" And she just smiled and she never said anything. And so I was like, "Oh, it's probably, just personal reasons or whatever." I said, "But I'll find you, right?"
Yeah,
So wherever she went, we were gonna go. And it got so, and I even reached out to Tiffany because Tiffany, I was like, "Can you find her?" And Tiff couldn't find her. And we had looked, and I looked everywhere for her, and it's just like she's just air quote gone.
Yeah. It's amazing. So my general physician and my oncologist don't work. I mean, they're separate practices. Um, and I realized how important she was in all of this when I was sitting in his office one day for an appointment, and he said, because I think he got wind that she was leaving, and he said, "Dr. Udinwar is leaving," and I said, "Yeah, I heard that." He said, "She was so good." She said she really cared about you and your well-being. He said she would call him 9, 10 o'clock at night for different things, results and lab work and all this other thing. And he said she was really, really involved in your care. And I had no idea. I had no idea. So, just to know that, you know, it's important to understand that, regardless of what you're going through, there's someone in your corner working behind the scenes. There's God working behind the scenes. They're working on your scenes, but they're working on behalf of God, um, for you.
They
And
have an assignment.
yeah, they're on assignment. And she probably didn't realize she was on assignment. Maybe she did. I'm not sure. But with multiple myeloma, and I hate to switch a little bit. With multiple myeloma, one of the big things is just getting the diagnosis. A good friend of mine, his dad passed from multiple myeloma, and I'm not sure if I talked about this last week, but his dad passed from multiple myeloma. I want to say they found out in 2022. I want to say by 2023 he had passed because they couldn't figure out what it was. Really getting a doctor who understands what this is, or at least putting you in the hands of someone who knows what it is critical. And I think in his case, I mean, in 2022, they had a whole bunch of therapies available. So there's no reason that he should not be here. And, I think for me, as I talk about multiple myeloma going forward, is to, hey, if you're feeling a pain, if you're feeling something that feels off, really go get it checked. And then, and if you're not comfortable with your doctor, get a second opinion, because there is, multiple myeloma shows up as a pain in your back or pain in your knee. And I think there are so many people that could be here today, simply because they weren't diagnosed in time.
And pay attention to, by the time you get to the situation, you in too deep. And what I mean by this is pay attention to all of the messages that heaven is sending you prior to, because heaven is preparing you for what is to come. And so what I mean by this is that in 2018, I lost my job. And then shortly after that, Mike lost his job. So we both were, and then we were around different business owners. We were around a lot of different entrepreneurs and people like that. And people are going to tell you to do what they do because that's what they're comfortable with. And one of the things that we were told during that, time period, and some of the advice that we were given, you can start your own business. You can do this on your own. All you got to do is put. And I'm like, I need insurance. I'm looking at everything in life that's happening. But when you are, in good health and you are, you're doing the thing, and it's like, yeah, we can make this work. We can push through. We can, that hustle and grind, culture. And so we thought about it for a minute. And Mike was like, I can do this and you can do that and we can. And now I'm looking at my son, I'm looking at my daughter. I was like, we one broken arm away from financial ruin. I'm like, no, sir, I need insurance. And I'll never forget having this conversation because I was home. We were all home together, and you got to be mindful of what you ask for. I had prayed for that for a minute. I was like, oh, I want to be home with Mike, and we're having breakfast together. We're doing walks together. We're doing dinner, and we were doing all that. I was like, I need to modify this plan because there's too many people up here now. But we were there talking, and this was so powerful. And this is why you have to go with what God tells you and not let your ego get in the way. And this was Mike. This is Mike. Mike said, if everybody would eat right and do what they need to do and exercise, we wouldn't need insurance. I'm like, boy, I need some insurance. And so it was like a Mexican standoff. And so the children were like, we were walking one day. This is funny. So we were doing one of our walks. And this was before I had my surgery. So I was anemic and all of that because I had fibroids. And so we were walking and I said, Mike, I've heard from the Lord. He said, what'd the Lord say? I said, the Lord said you need to get a job. He was like, I ain't hear that. I got to hear from he was like, I'm going to have to hear from the Lord myself. I said, whatever. As I get home, I said, shoot, that ain't going to work too good. So the kids, they were like, well, Mommy, you have been home longer than Daddy. So maybe it be your own. They turn on you. I said, whatever. And then I started, because when God had me, when I left that job, God literally told me, God said, you will never use your resume again. And I'm thinking that to me that I would never have to work again. But God said, you'll never have to use your resume again. I was like, okay. So be very mindful of how you interpret God's instruction. So that's what I'm thinking. I ain't going to never have to use my resume again. So anyway, fast forward. I broke down. Mike was firm with that. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going back. I was there. I said, oh my gosh. So I said, one of us has to do it. So I went back, and this is how humbling it was. I have been working since I was like a tradition. I've been working all my life, but like a traditional big girl job, since like my mid to late 20s. And so every job I've ever gone for, I've gotten. Like I've been the one, like if they get me in the door, I'm gonna get that. Like that's me. I got that job. So I went in with the same confidence, right? And I didn't get the job. I was floored. I was like, what is happening? I was like, your resume is not gonna get you there. Like your resume. I said, that's what you meant? I thought you meant that. Okay, never mind. So anyway, this is how powerful it was, this whole process. So I didn't get the job, but I got the job. So I didn't get the initial job, but then the recruiter called me back like a week later and asked me if I had ever temped before. So I never temped before, but I was like, well, how much does the temp agency pay? And this is how powerful God is. Okay. So initially, God was setting all of this up. God was setting all of this up. Initially, Mike was the breadwinner. Like he was the one. I really do miss that check. And so when I went in for this interview, I was like, well, God, if I got to go back to work, I'm going to go back and get what I want, right? I'm going to just say what I want. So we're on the interview. Mike said, that's why you didn't get that job. Because he was like, well, how much you asking for? I was like, I gave about amount. He said, yeah, no, they ain't going to pay that. I said, oh, okay. So he said, well, I'll put it through. So this is how powerful it was. I did not get that job, but then he called me and he said, are you willing to temp? I said, I don't even know how that works. So obviously the temp budget and the payroll, but those are two different budgets, right? And so he said, well, how much? I said, well, how much does a temp job pay? Because I'm thinking it's definitely less than, a regular job. So he said, well, how much were you asking for? I was like, what? And I heard him. He said, okay, well, we'll just take this and divide. Like, that's how much it'll pay. I said, wait a minute. Y'all weren't going to pay that through the regular, but y'all go. I said, okay. And so when I get to the temp agency, this is how God was setting us up, right? When I got to the temp agency, the person there, she said, well, I've never done this before. She said, because they requested you. Normally we're sending people to them, but they called me and said they wanted you. So just fill out the forms. I said, okay. So I just literally went in to fill out payroll forms and, all of those. And on my way out, she shook my hand. She said, girl, between me, you, and this stapler, don't quit this job because you ain't going to never get a temp job in this market paying this amount of money for this. I said, for real? She said, I don't know how you did it, but keep it. I said, okay. So I get up in there and that job, I temped for an entire almost a year with minimal benefits. They did some insurance, which had changed from, previous, so that you did get insurance with the temp agency, but it wasn't great insurance. It was just the basics. But it was during that time period that this was the first time a temp agent that I had ever had to provide documentation for my marriage status for insurance. And I was like, what is this? What is happening? And so I literally had to go down. The firm that I worked for was down the street from the courts. So I literally one day on my lunch hour walked down to the courts to get my marriage certificate. And the woman said, it's not signed. I said, what you mean? It's not signed. We've been married. We got kids. We got a house. We got this. And if any of y'all repeat this again, I'm taking names of everybody on this call right now. Okay. So when we got there, they said that it's not signed. And so I called Mike, and Mike said, what that mean? Like, we not married? And Mike was like, oh, we still gotta wait. I said, I wish you would. So the Monsignor that married us had been excommunicated from the church. So I couldn't even reach him. So I ain't gonna even tell y'all how we resolved that. But me and Mr. Johnson is married, okay? So I went and I found that paperwork, and so it's well done.
Listen, so don't nobody try it. If you had any ideas, don't try it. Don't look, I'll come for you.
Don't try.
Go ahead.
So we ain't gonna even fill in them little blanks, but it was signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay. So I say all of that to say that little piece was a huge piece of the puzzle. That piece was a huge piece of the puzzle. Fast forward to Mike's diagnosis. Heaven has accounted for everything that you need spiritually, mentally, and physically. So the physical part is what Mike was going through, but we still had the financial piece, and life was still happening over here in the Johnson household. So God had us initially start to clean up some things. So we didn't have astronomical bills, but we still had bills, okay? And with him, with his income not coming in, but I had then gotten a full-time, they had hired me full-time. And then the salary that they had given me, when I sat down, this is how powerful this is. I'm sitting there and I'm doing my work and I'm doing everything I need to do. And they found out also that I had my journaling work. And that was one of the things that God told me during this process. That's the reason I had to lose my other job, was because I was treating my assignment like an affair. I was lying. I was doing all of the things. So God said, this time when you go, you have to lead with your assignment. So there were no secrets. I'm on board. And so they have like a non-compete sort of clause or something you have to sign. And they, how can I put it? They knew about my 5 a.m. stuff. So she said, oh, that's not a problem at all. And then she said, well, we're going to bump your salary up even more. So they gave me more. So all of that helped out a lot because, of the salary thing. But the key is that when we got to the stem cell transplant, all of that, our finances had tanked. We were going into foreclosure. It was a lot of things going on. We had gotten help from family, and then the mortgage company, a lady that answered the phone, gave me a number to call because we really owed a lot of money. And so I filled out the forms that she gave me, and one of the things that they needed was a marriage certificate. And so a signed marriage certificate. So God knew way back then that we were going to need this at this moment. And so the process from me talking to the lady on the phone to getting the funds that we needed for our mortgage took 2 weeks. And that mortgage, that grant or whatever that was, paid and covered like 7 months of our mortgage payment. So I know that was a long and convoluted story, but I wanted you guys to see and to understand that when you're going through a scenario, the scenario doesn't just start at the moment you find out about it. Heaven has been working behind the scenes for years prior. And so this is why you do not despise the small beginnings and do not overlook the minor inconveniences, because it's all connected. So that's why, I took so much time to kind of weave you through that story, is so that you don't miss the power in the inconveniences, because that was an inconvenience. My marriage certificate not being signed, that was an inconvenience. Not getting the job that I wanted, that was an inconvenience. Having to temp for that time, but heaven was setting us up to, to win. So that's I wanted to share that.
And I'm so glad that you did, because
Yeah, I was going to say that.
yeah, that's an important part of the story, because they're 2017, 2018, leading up to everything that was going to take place, and being able to see his hand in everything is so important. So often we're just like gloom and doom and crying and why, and oh my God, why am I going through this and first this, and we ain't got no, it's not signed, I'm leaving you. That's a sign. Sign.
That would be God's
That was
signal.
extra ramp. That was extra ramp.
All kind of stuff. And then just, not getting the job, but then Yahweh putting it in there that you're a temp and you get what you ask for. Come on, somebody. You get the amount that you ask for, then you end up being permanent, and they give you more, right? But even with the more, there was still financial struggles and challenges, and he was still your provider.
Amen.
And even though he fixed the whole thing with the marriage certificate years ahead, because it was going to be necessary now, right? And you needed the marriage certificate signed at the appointed time. Oh, no problem, because this is going to help you now financially. He's so intentional, and even things that we feel are unnecessary. And why do I have to go through that? It's all a part of the process. You are literally walking it out. We ain't got to stand on the corner and preach. Our lives are the witnesses to the powerful hand of Yahweh, our Elohim. I'm floored, Alicia. That's why you needed to be here, because we needed all of this good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, she gave all you the backstory.
Might be missing the details. Last weekend, I was like, he ain't say this, he ain't say that, he ain't say this, he ain't say. I said, boy, he be, yeah. But it's a very fascinating story.
Journey,
right? When you understand, and the healing that we had to do in our marriage. That's the kicker, because that's one thing we're laughing about. Because when he was in the hospital, that could have been my way out. I'd be like, I'll be watching those snap shows. I'll be watching those shows. You know how they had the IV up in there? I'll be like,
Well, I can definitely say, to add on to that, this is something, what we went through is something that you definitely don't want to go through with your spouse if y'all not on.
Doing that? I mean, if
they don't like you.
This
got those papers. They'll be like, look, keep that insurance. Keep that insurance. If you don't pay no bill, keep that insurance. So Mike was sitting there. Mike would not have been able to rest.
I couldn't imagine.
And I wouldn't have rested either, because I would have been plotting. I'd be like, you sleep. Can you hear me? You sleep.
Because you can't. I mean, there was a point where I really couldn't do much.
I had to fix his food. You seen all those shows, and it was arsenic or whatever is, whatever can't be traced. It tastes like antifreeze. It's real sweet.
How you
I've been watching those shows.
Antifreeze.
I'm saying, but that's real.
antifreeze is what they use.
I used to watch. I did it for my man.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah,
I'm
all
gonna,
them
I'm gonna
shows.
have to cut those subscriptions. Watching that type of stuff.
No, but we
Crazy.
healed now. No,
Yeah.
we're healed now. But back, that's why the healing, the forgiveness work is important. That's why getting your family together. Like if we had to go through everything that we went through at the time that Mike had to heal, he wouldn't have made it simply because of the stress.
Yeah.
Our son, I mean, when I tell you we love our son. I mean, not that we did love him before, but I mean, he has our heart now. Like he's everything to us and our daughter too. But during that time period, he was off the chain. And I mean, prior to that, so our marriage issues, our financial issues, our parenting issues, that would have taken us out the game quicker than the myeloma. But he was able to really heal and not worry. He didn't have to worry about anything. And this is why, especially in the climate that we're in now, I really do. I just want everybody to do whatever they need to do to heal their families.
Yes.
To really come together, because we're going to need family now more than ever. Like we're really going to have to stick together to really continue to thrive, not survive, just to continue the way that we're living, to continue to grow and all of those things. And prayerfully our story will help some people to understand the value in that. There's strength in numbers, and that's what we really need to focus on.
Yeah. Thank you. You got your 1212 over here cutting up in the chat.
I see this chat. And I'm taking names too. I see it.
Well, one you already said about to be kicked out, so.
Mm-hmm. I see. I know the usual suspects. I know.
But the story is always, it's like it's fresh every time you tell it. Not the situation, but the coming out, the victory of overcoming. Overcoming having the marriage problems, overcoming your son. And what he was going through, trying to figure out life, just overcoming the finances, not knowing even when he was sick, not knowing what was really going to happen, but knowing that you had to have peace enough to rest, to understand that Yahweh was going to bring you out. No, everybody cannot get through that, and no, everybody is not able to get through that. And it takes knowing him. So you got to have that foundation. And it's the foundation that kept y'all. We cannot go into a situation and think that we're just gonna tiptoe through the tools. Like you said, you had this picture of all of y'all being home together, and it's just one beautiful picture, tiptoeing through the tulips, I call it. And to find out, fix your face, Alicia. and to understand, though, but it was all a part of the process.
Mm-hmm. And if I can, Mike had this show last week anyway, so I don't even feel bad. Yeah. So with that being said, don't listen to the world. The reason that we've been able to navigate as well as we've been able to navigate is because we had to put the world to the side. And what I mean by this is that the world relies on statistics and research and studies, and more than 50% of Christian marriages end in divorce. That's after one affair. And y'all know our story. And that's not true when you turn away from the world. One of the things that is very fascinating, like one of the things that was our son, and he's talked about it, so this isn't a big deal, was weed. Like he would smoke. He was, I was like, how long have you been smoking? He started smoking when he was like 12, 13 years old. And the reason that I bring this up is because the world is legalized. It's okay. It's fine. But see, I truly believe that like the THC levels or whatever, it is a different. This ain't the regular. This ain't the regular weed. This is different. This is very different. This is a
It's the
whole different
government. It's the
dynamic.
government weed.
Right. And the fact that seriously, and it's doing more harm than
Yeah.
good. And our son had to come to that realization on his own. And one of the things that we had talked about, I said, you probably need to go out here and help a lot of these, young kids and let them know that it's not what it is. Because a lot of times, they have promoted it to be, oh, it's going to calm you down. It's going to give you clarity. It's going to help you. And when he stopped and his clarity started to come and he started to calm down, and he's like, I've never felt this good in my life. He's like, I have never felt this good in my life. And he was like, that was the biggest lie he had ever been told up until this age. And he was like, I will never trade my clarity and my sanity for anything else in this world. His skin is immaculate. Like his eyes are clear. His thought, I mean, and he was functioning but not powerfully. And so I say all of this to say that whatever you're going through, do not get your information from the world. Whatever you're going through, seek heaven's guidance. And do not stop praying until you see what heaven has promised. It's not done until you see the manifestation of what heaven has promised. Don't stop 1 second before you see the healing. Don't stop 1 second before you see the abundance. Don't stop 1 iota before the promise is fulfilled.
Yeah.
Somebody put that in the comments. Don't stop praying until you see heaven's promises. I need to come back to that comment. So somebody put that in the comments for me.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
It's
Ooh.
very powerful. And it's very true. And that's what happened most time. We stop just when we just about there. Because we don't see it.
Right.
And the people done said, I don't know what you're waiting on. I don't know why you're doing it this way. But we have to be steadfast, unmovable. And that's what you're saying. We got to be unmovable, not allowing the world. What does the world come to do? Steal, kill, and destroy. And his purpose is to destroy us, make us give up, make us see that things is not the way they really are, as though they seem like they say. But through it all, we have to stand on the word and know by experiences that he will have the last say. It's very important that we understand that. And we could
You
go
know
on
what's
for
so
hours with just
beautiful before you leave, Miss Leslie, is that I was thinking about this. This journey with them all started because Miss Alicia started listening to heaven. Even though she didn't want to, she started listening to heaven and Yahweh's instructions. And that is what prepared them and started the work for what they would have to go through years later. So don't negate hearing what he's telling you to do. Don't be so stubborn that you don't want to listen because of what you feel and what you're going through. When heaven gets your attention and Yahweh starts talking, listen to him because you don't know what it's setting you up for in the future.
Yeah.
And what I love most about this story today is that strategic team he put together from heaven to work on Mike's behalf. And when the assignment was over, they were out.
They all go. They all go.
Every single one. And I stopped showing up at the appointments because at the beginning I was at every appointment. And I think one of his appointments, the nurse or somebody's like, your wife isn't here? Like, nah, she don't come with me no more. Like everybody, I'm like, exit stage left. Everybody's like, you good, you're done. And heaven, and that's the thing that we have to understand is that heaven doesn't want us to use heaven as a crutch. Heaven is an ever-present help. And I never forget, this was so funny. When we were at the hospital, then we were assigned a social worker, right? And so this is the human me, right? I was like, well, shoot, they giving out money, then I'm just gonna take whatever they can get, right? So I was like, y'all got parking pass. So they were helping us with parking, and then it was something else. And God said, see, now you're being greedy. Like the guy never even came back to address whatever my issue was. Because it was like, God's like, no, I've apportioned everything for you that you need. And that's where a lot of us miss the true inner workings of heaven, because we see how good and gracious God is, and then we want to take it above. We want to take it above and beyond. We want to. Well, if you did that, then maybe you can do this. If you did that, and and God's timing is everything. Because had this literally, Mike is just barely on the other side of it. Had everything started now, this will be a whole nother ballpark. Those funds that were there for the mortgage, all of that, that would have been gone. Yeah. That would have been gone. And that's why I praise God every day. Heaven's timing is impeccable. This is why I'm continually saying, be radically obedient. Move immediately. When God tells you to move, heaven is telling you to move, because heaven knows what's coming. If God says today, God means today. When God had me to make that appointment, God said, do it now, because heaven knew that now was going to put us on the clock, so that when you get a new patient appointment, you don't get it immediately. We had to wait some months. So I made that appointment in June, but the actual date wasn't until like October. And so when heaven gives you that pressing, when heaven gives you that urgency, that is heaven telling you, that is the spirit realm telling you that window of opportunity is closed. Can heaven work on the other side of that? Yes. But the outcome will be diluted. It won't be as potent. It won't be as concentrated as working within God's will. Working within God's will gives you everything that you need. When you are a second beyond God's will, now you have to work with the crumbs. Wow. So you want to make sure that everything that you do keeps you within the will of God. Yeah. Timing is everything.
And you always say it, be radical obedient.
Yes, and I'm so serious about. I mean, I don't know how many ways to say it. I don't know how many ways to demonstrate it. I don't know what it takes for people to really understand that. But especially in the time that we're in right now, we do not have the luxury of trying to figure things out. You either believe God or you don't. You either believe heaven wants the best for you or you don't. And this is the thing, especially like with what people are going through right now. I wonder how many people God told that you need to leave, you need to move, you need to do this, and they didn't. And now they're caught up in the craziness that's going on in the world, not because God wanted to destroy them, but because they were not obedient. It doesn't mean that God can't work through it. It just means that the process is going to be a little bit different now, because you are on the other side of God's will. Yeah. I know that went left, but
no,
I'm passionate about
it. Right on time.
So many people are suffering, and I know how God works with me, and I know how God works from a spiritual perspective. And if you are seeking God for all God is worth, God is giving you instructions. God is telling you to move. God is telling you to do something different. God is telling you to pay this off. God is telling you to save. God is telling you to prepare. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Don't wait until it's too late. So yeah, that's it. I'm up now. There's somebody put that in the chat. I'm up now.
I said that.
I said that a minute ago.
She don't push me to the corner.
I'm like, okay, so I'm like,
she was over. I'm like, okay,
Okay. All
I'm
right.
barely on camera
I'm fine. Whew, I had to get that out. Thank you. I
now.
needed
No,
that this morning. I
but
thank
no,
y'all.
that is really good. And I know Leslie, we're going way over time here, but
It's Leslie's show. She can do what she wants to.
I think it's so important, and you said it's so important that we look at our lives as one big bucket, And for so long, I looked at like all of my experiences as like separate stuff, But when I start to from this point, when I look back, it's like, man, all of this kind of worked together. And I think when we can see that and we have faith and trust in what is going on and how it's happening, it just allows us to move more smoothly through the process. If we're looking at it as like, we're working in these different buckets, it's painful because you're looking at every experience, every hardship that you go through as like, wow, why is this happening? And you just stuck right there in that bucket. And it's like he's putting you through this bucket so you can get to the next bucket
Yeah.
and to the end. And I think, where we are right now, I mean, it has been amazing the last year alone, after recovering from the stem cell transplant, doing the ride last year, meeting everyone that I met, um, all of the stuff that we did. I eventually went back and I started working this part-time job.
Right.
And I was working the job, and it was a work from home position. I wasn't getting paid a lot. And I liked the position, but we had put in for disability back in 2022. And it got to the point where it's like, I don't even know if it's going to happen. I'm not hearing anything from them. I, I don't know what's going on. And initially when we put it in, I was just expecting that, I would get paid for the time that I was off, the time that I was unable to work. They gave me 100% disability, full disability, I guess earlier this year. And I had no idea. I had no idea. Multiple myeloma, I guess it depends on the type and the severity of it. My severity or the type that I had qualified for 100% disability. So I'm working this job, and it's like, hey, well, I, I have to leave. I had to leave the job, and it was perfect timing because Alicia had got this letter in the mail telling me, because when we initially got it, we didn't read the letter right. It was the way they worded it. It was like, okay, you know, that's good. And I'm still expecting that, okay, this is just for a period. This is just for a small period. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just keep going to my job and I'll just, work from here. And Alicia got the letter and it was like, hold on, they sent another check. I'm like, what?
Reading
Why,
is fundamental,
why they send another check?
and it's
And
important to have people in your
she
life.
said, Mike, they gave you 100% disability. I'm like, what? What? And the really strange thing or weird thing, not weird, but I was at that time, my grandfather, we had to put my grandfather into not a home, but a facility. And I was going over to visit him a lot. And I was actually I was sitting right in front of the house to visit with him. And Alicia told me that. And it's like, when she told me that, my entire world shifted. And it was at that point that it was like, I really felt how God, it was like I felt the severity, or I felt the bigness of what God has did in our life. Because as she was talking before, it was like praying or wanting for us to all be home and to have breakfast and all these other things. It was like, man, this is how it was supposed to happen. It was painful. It was painful to get to that point and what we had to go through. But it was like, we sit here in this office
He
all
extra though.
day, every day
He went
now.
to the extreme to get this done. I was like, oh,
But I mean, we don't know how God's working, and I say all the time, we have all of these plans and ideas of how we want things to end up in our lives, and we say the prayers, and we set out and we look out in the distance for this thing to show up, and most times it's not going to show up in the way we're looking at. It's coming through the back door. It's coming through the window. It's going to come a completely different way than you expected. And I tell you, I would have never told you, if you said, Mike, this is how it's going to happen, I would say, yeah, no, not for me, not for us. It's not coming that way. But as I said last week, I am so blessed and fortunate. Not, no one wants multiple myeloma and have to go through that, but all of those experiences have led us here. And this is honestly, we've been married for 29 years. This is the happiest time in our lives.
We had to get the desk door. Ain't that crazy?
So
we laugh every day.
Everything that we expected when we said I do, everything that we expect you to do. I mean, you have the honeymoon phase, and that's good, but that wears off quickly. We're now experiencing all that we had hoped for when we got married. I mean, it's not just now.
Almost 30 years later.
Yeah.
Keep hope alive. Ma'am, keep hope. It too can happen for
that's
you.
The thing. I mean, life is going to take you through it. And when I look at it, it's a test. It's really this is what you want, right? This is what you want. Okay, let's see if this is what you want. And and God's going to test you. If you really want this, all right.
He extra with his though. I'm not as adamant. He when I think about it, and you know people and their how can I put it, their intensity. Mike was like, every job he had, these fools. I can't, working with these, and he was always stressed, and he's always been in like management, and he's had some pretty heavy responsibility, and you could just see how it was kind of wearing on him and everything. And so what the myeloma didn't do to him, the job would have done to him by way of stress. And so you have to look for the silver lining in everything. And so I'm grateful, but it's an interesting way to manifest your destiny. That's his journey. That we got separate journeys, and so you, as a married couple, keep your journeys the way you need to. This is his process.
So I do want to end with the recording from last week, Mike talking about the fundraiser. I put the link in the chat. I would love to get your Bree and your children's perspective on
Y'all
it.
ain't ready for that.
I know it's a whole different
God
thing.
is protecting all of us. That's why God didn't release the world. That little girl, and now they used to be enemies, but now they're thick as thieves. So we don't know what they be coming up. We have no idea. So they would be good.
I mean, if we could get them on here.
If we could wrangle them in, but I don't think the world's ready for that yet. One day.
Well, tell them when the world is ready, I welcome them. But thank you. I want to end with this. Okay. This is the sound. You can't hear it, can you?
I've been in that boat. I totally understand. But on the other hand, I've been given challenge. I've been in that boat. I totally understand. But on the other hand, I've been given the assignment to raise awareness and raise funds for not only people who have been diagnosed and who are living with multiple myeloma, but for people who have been diagnosed with cancer, any other cancer. I know firsthand what that life is like. It's rough. When you're diagnosed, all of the treatments and things that you have to go through is. So what I'm doing is using my gift of video, my gift of photography in exchange for donations. If it's a situation when you're a business owner, you're someone who's looking to get out content, you're looking to tell a story, I'm here to use my camera in exchange for a small donation to organizations that support cancer patients. Right now, I'm currently in a campaign for multiple myeloma, but going forward, I'll be doing this for other cancers. So, again, trust me, I understand the fact that giving is difficult when you don't got it. I'm trying to really just make that a little easier for those who may be on the fence, for those who want to give, but also need a service in return. So looking ahead, I know right now October is for me kind of booked up, but I do have one, possibly two slots open in October. If you're looking to donate and need a service, let me know. November is kind of open. So I'll be looking to take on 3, possibly 4 jobs in exchange for donations. But yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Anyhow, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Reach out and we can jump on a call.
This thing is doing what it wants to do. Y'all can still hear that?
Hmm? Say it again, Leslie.
Huh?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
It's doing what it wants to do. But listen, all the information is in the description. How you can get in touch with Mike, how you can get in touch with Alicia, how you can get in touch with Wanda. Whatever you need is in the description. Also in the chat, I put the link for the fundraiser awareness so that you can also see how to give. Yeah, how to give. And this is what it'll look like when you come to the page, and you can donate what you can donate. If you can donate a lot, that's good. If you can only donate a little bit, that's good too. But give from your heart. And Mike, not only Mike, but the road to victory would really appreciate your hand and your help. So as we end the call, we want to say thank you so much for being here. We could have gone on a whole nother week, just the whole process, because we're only hearing tidbits and bits of it, but there was a whole process that came along with it. But thank you so much for joining us this week, Alicia, and gracing us with your presence. I'm so glad you woke up, because I was like, she a little slow back here.
It takes me a minute. Well, I'm up now. I'm up now. He here for it now. He's gonna be like, don't you want to go take a nap? Oh, I'm up. You get all of this.
So until we meet again, we want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your comments, those that was funny and those that was serious. We needed it all. And until next time, have an amazing day, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Sure.